You've probably seen Back to the Future dozens of times, maybe hundreds. But have you really seen it? Like, really scrutinized every frame, every line, every potential mistake? Because believe me, there's one out there that even the sharpest-eyed editors somehow missed. And in this video, we're going to expose it. But before we dive headfirst into temporal anomalies and cinematic slip-ups, let's take a trip back, ironically, to the very beginning. To the genesis of this time-traveling titan, Back to the Future wasn't just born a cultural icon. It was meticulously crafted, painstakingly debated, and almost didn't happen at all. The seeds of this cinematic masterpiece were sown in 1980 by the creative duo of Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. Stuck in a rut, Zemeckis stumbled upon his mother's high school yearbook. He was shocked to find that she had a crush on him. He asked Bob Gale, "What if you went back in time and met your parents as teenagers? Would you befriend them? Would you even like them?" From that deceptively simple question, a story began to unfold. A story about second chances, identity, and the potentially disastrous consequences of meddling with the past. But selling that story to Hollywood? That was a journey in itself. Zemeckis and Gale faced rejection after rejection. The script was considered too tame, too family-friendly. Hard to believe, right? In an era saturated with raunchy comedies, studios deemed Back to the Future insufficiently obscene. 40 doors slammed shut in their faces. 40 times they were told their vision wouldn't work. Imagine a world without Marty McFly, without Doc Brown, without the DeLorean. A world where Back to the Future remained just a what-if. Thankfully, fate, or perhaps a well-timed DeLorean trip, intervened. Robert Zemeckis finally got his break, directing Romancing the Stone in 1984. The film was a box office hit. Suddenly, Zemeckis wasn't just a struggling filmmaker anymore. He was bankable. He was a proven commodity. And Universal Pictures, sensing the potential, finally gave Back to the Future the green light. But securing a studio deal was just the first hurdle. The next challenge? Casting. From the very beginning, Zemeckis and Gale had one actor in mind for the role of Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox. He possessed that perfect blend of youthful exuberance, mischievous charm, and genuine vulnerability. He was Marty McFly. The only problem? Fox was already deeply committed to his hit television series, Family Ties. The show's producers flatly refused to release him. They were convinced he was too valuable to their ongoing success. So with a heavy heart, Zemeckis and Gale were forced to look elsewhere. The role eventually went to Eric Stoltz, a talented actor known for his more serious dramatic roles. Production began with Stoltz as Marty. Weeks went by. Scenes were filmed, but something felt off. Stoltz, while undoubtedly skilled, wasn't quite capturing the essence of Marty McFly. He brought an intensity to the role. Marty was supposed to be a relatable, fun-loving teenager. He needed to be slightly awkward, slightly rebellious, but ultimately likable. After weeks of agonizing deliberation, Zemeckis made the incredibly difficult and expensive decision to recast. He knew it meant reshooting vast amounts of footage, blowing the budget, and potentially jeopardizing the entire project. But he also knew that without the right Marty McFly, the film simply wouldn't work. Then finally, a break. A window of opportunity opened up. Michael J. Fox's schedule freed up enough to allow him to take on the role. After juggling commitments to Family Ties and Back to the Future simultaneously, a new phase of production was set in motion. Back to square one, but with the right leading man. The perfect blend of charm and charisma finally brought Marty McFly to life. Filming wrapped up in April 1985, but the challenges were far from over. The release date was set for July 3rd, a prime summer blockbuster slot. This left a mere 2 months for editing, special effects, and post-production. An insane crunch time that pushed everyone to their limits. Some special effects weren't fully polished by the time the film hit theaters. Corners were cut. Sacrifices were made. But despite the frantic pace and the lingering imperfections, the reaction was explosive. Back to the Future became a global phenomenon. It grossed over $381 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing film of 1985. Critics raved. Audiences adored it. Marty McFly became a role model for teenagers. The film's theme song, "The Power of Love" by Huey Lewis and the News, soared to the top of the charts. And the DeLorean time machine? It instantly cemented its place as one of the most iconic vehicles in cinematic history. Years passed, decades even, and the love for Back to the Future only intensified. In 2007, the U.S. Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry, solidifying its status as not just entertainment, but a vital piece of American cultural history. Few films achieved that level of enduring legacy. Back to the Future wasn't just a blockbuster of its time. It became a timeless story. It spoke to multiple generations. But as seemingly flawless as it appeared on the silver screen, the journey behind the scenes was anything but smooth. Casting changes, studio rejections, sleepless nights, and constant pressure all contributed to the final product we now consider a masterpiece. And while audiences were laughing, cheering, and memorizing every line delivered by Marty and Doc, something else was happening. Something lurking just beneath the surface. Something brewing off-screen that would soon become a quirky, endearing, and endlessly fascinating part of the Back to the Future mythology. I'm talking about the blooper, the accidental, the unintentional, the "how did that get past the editors" moment. That one tiny slip-up that once you see it, you can never unsee. And in the next section, we're going to shine a spotlight on that very blooper. We're going to dissect it, analyze it, and marvel at its sheer audacity. Because believe me, it's a doozy. All right, buckle up, time travelers, because we're about to dive headfirst into the fascinating world of Back to the Future bloopers. We're not talking about major plot holes here, but those little quirky mistakes that somehow slipped past the editors and now live on in infamy amongst die-hard fans. These are the endearing errors that make us appreciate the film even more, proving that even a time-traveling masterpiece isn't immune to a few temporal glitches. First stop, the iconic enchantment under the sea dance. This scene is jam-packed with unforgettable moments, from Marty McFly shredding Johnny B. Good to George McFly finally standing up to Biff. But look closely, and you might spot a few discrepancies. For instance, watch Marty's guitar. 1 minute, it's a Gibson ES-335, a model not actually available until 1958, a few years after the events of 1955 that are happening in that particular scene. And the next, it morphs into a different model entirely. Now, some might say it's just a slight oversight, a prop department snafu, or maybe Doc Brown tinkered with it in the future. But once you notice it, it's hard to unsee. It just kind of hangs there in the film, like a loose thread of time. Then there's the ever-changing height of the stage. Seriously, in some shots, it looks like Marty could practically step right off, while in others, there's a noticeable drop. Did the set crew have a mid-scene height adjustment? Or is the stage itself fluctuating through some localized mini-time warp of its own? Maybe it's a clever metaphor, highlighting the instability of the timeline. Or maybe it's just a mistake. And speaking of the stage, what about the band members? Keep an eye on the drummer. His style seems to shift throughout the song. 1 minute he's cool and collected, laying down a solid beat, and the next he is all over the place, like he has just landed in 1955 and is adjusting to this new rock and roll thing. Is it a character choice? Or a simple case of inconsistent direction? Only the filmmakers truly know? Or maybe they have no idea at all. Moving on from the dance, let's talk about that Save the Clock Tower flyer. This humble piece of paper plays a surprisingly significant role in the film, serving as a visual reminder of the impending lightning strike. However, its appearance is anything but consistent. Remember when Marty first gets the flyer from the earnest activist lady? Take a good, hard look. In some shots, it's pristine, unblemished, looking like it came straight off the printer. But then, in other shots, it's inexplicably crumpled, creased, and weathered. How did it age so dramatically in a matter of minutes? Did Marty accidentally stuff it in his pocket while fleeing Biff? Or is it another sign of temporal shenanigans messing with the fabric of reality? The world may never know, and it gets even weirder. Jennifer's love note written on the back of the flyer mysteriously appears before she actually writes it. In the scene where Marty first receives the flyer, a faint inscription is visible on the reverse side even before Jennifer pens her message. It's as if the flyer is pre-programmed with the future, a self-fulfilling prophecy on a piece of paper. Talk about a paradox. But wait, there's more! Pay close attention to the position of the clock hands on the clock tower itself. In some scenes, they're clearly pointing to different times. It is as though the townspeople of Hill Valley cannot agree on the time that the lightning is supposed to strike. Are these continuity errors a big deal? Probably not, but they are great fun to spot, adding another layer of charm to an already beloved movie. Now let's head over to Doc Brown's lab. This place is a treasure trove of quirky inventions and temporal tinkering, but it's also home to some pretty noticeable bloopers. Remember the scene where Doc explains the flux capacitor to Marty using a chalkboard diagram? Take a look at the diagram itself. The writing and drawings change subtly between shots. Now, you could argue that Doc is constantly refining his theories, constantly adding to and subtracting from the knowledge that he has of time travel. But, realistically, it is just easier to say that the prop department struggled to maintain a consistent image from take to take. And what about the plutonium? Doc handles this highly radioactive material with what appears to be shocking nonchalance. But look closely at the plutonium itself. In some shots, it is a vibrant glowing, and in others, it is a duller shade, suggesting that the radioactivity of the fuel source fluctuates with the timeline. Then there's the infamous videotape scene. Marty records Doc saying, "Never mind that now," but the camera isn't even pointing at Doc when he says the line. Did Marty somehow master the art of telepathic audio recording, or did the editors simply prioritize narrative clarity over strict continuity? It is another little slip that adds to the film's mystique. So, what's the deal with all these bloopers? Are they signs of sloppy filmmaking, or are they something more? Well, I think it's the latter. These errors, these imperfections, they are not flaws. They are features. They're like hidden Easter eggs waiting to be discovered by eagle-eyed fans. They add a layer of interactivity to the viewing experience. It is no longer just about watching a movie, but about actively participating in its analysis. These bloopers also serve as a reminder that even the most meticulously crafted films are ultimately products of human creation, subject to the inevitable errors and oversights that come with the process. They make Back to the Future feel less like a pristine artifact and more like a living, breathing thing. And let's be honest, the hunt for these bloopers has spawned a whole subculture of Back to the Future fandom. Online forums are filled with discussions, debates, and meticulously compiled lists of every single continuity error and factual inaccuracy. People are still discovering new bloopers years after the movie was released, keeping the film alive and relevant for new generations. So, the next time you're watching Back to the Future, don't just sit back and passively enjoy the ride. Keep your eyes peeled. Look for the inconsistencies, the continuity errors, the little mistakes that make this movie so endlessly fascinating. Embrace the bloopers! Celebrate the imperfections. After all, they are part of what makes Back to the Future a timeless classic. And there is one mistake in particular that has become a fan favorite. The script output begins now. Beyond the realm of editing mishaps and on-screen blunders, Back to the Future's impact resonates far deeper than a simple time-traveling adventure. It's a story that captivated a president, navigated treacherous on-set challenges, and even flirted with realities that never quite made it to the silver screen. Let's delve into the larger universe this timeless classic created. A universe that includes a commander-in-chief, near-death experiences, and roads not taken. It's a well-known anecdote that Ronald Reagan, then the President of the United States, was so amused by the line, "Ronald Reagan?" the actor, that he insisted on replaying the scene at a private White House screening. But Reagan's appreciation wasn't just a fleeting moment of amusement. It spoke volumes about the film's widespread appeal and its clever incorporation of pop culture into its narrative. Reagan wasn't just a politician. He was a symbol of the American dream, a former actor who had risen to the highest office in the land. Back to the Future cleverly leveraged that very reality for comedic effect, and the president himself reveled in it. And it went even further than that. During his 1986 State of the Union address, Reagan actually quoted Doc Brown's iconic line, "Where we're going, we don't need roads." Imagine that. The leader of the free world addressing the nation and the globe, borrowing a line from a science fiction movie. It was a watershed moment, solidifying Back to the Future's place in the cultural lexicon and demonstrating its ability to transcend mere entertainment. It spoke to a sense of optimism and forward thinking, aligning perfectly with Reagan's own vision for the country. Who would have thought a movie about time travel would influence the State of the Union? But the path to cinematic glory wasn't paved with smooth roads, or, the absence of roads. The making of Back to the Future was fraught with challenges, both big and small, some even bordering on life-threatening. Let's not forget the near-fatal mishap during the filming of Back to the Future Part 3. In the scene where Marty McFly is being hanged by Buford Mad Dog Tannen and his posse, a stunt went horribly wrong. Michael J. Fox was actually being choked by the noose. He was unconscious for a scary amount of time before anyone noticed. He was very close to death. It's chilling to think that a seemingly simple scene, a staple of Westerns, could have had such dire consequences. And the trials didn't end with physical danger. Remember the controversy surrounding Crispin Glover's departure from the sequels? His portrayal of George McFly was integral to the first film's success, but disagreements over salary and creative direction led to his exit. What followed was a groundbreaking legal battle over the use of his likeness, setting a precedent for actors' rights in the age of increasingly sophisticated special effects. The use of a mold of his face on another actor was a bold move. Glover's lawsuit changed Hollywood forever. Beyond the clashes and the close calls, there lies a fascinating realm of what-ifs and alternate realities that shape the Back to the Future we know and love. The sequels almost went in a very different direction. Early ideas for Back to the Future Part 2 involved a trip back to the 1960s. Can you imagine Marty McFly encountering hippies and psychedelic culture instead of futuristic hoverboards? Lorraine was going to be a hippie. Doc was going to be experimenting with strange substances. That sequel would have been a completely different beast. And what about the casting choices that almost were? While Christopher Lloyd's portrayal of Doc Brown is iconic, other actors were considered for the role. Jeff Goldblum, with his unique blend of eccentricity and intelligence, was in the running. So was John Lithgow. Imagine those performances. Lithgow could have leaned into the mad part of mad scientist. Goldblum would have been Goldblum, and that would have been great. It just goes to show how different the film could have been with a few key decisions. Even the seemingly minor details were subject to change and refinement. The script had all sorts of different errors. Doc talks about setting the time circuits to December 25th, year 000, to witness the birth of Christ. While it's a throwaway line, it's also historically inaccurate. Jesus was born around 4 BC, and there's no year 000, so that plan wouldn't work. So the glowing red liquid in a glass tube labeled plutonium is also inaccurate. Plutonium is silvery. Back to the Future's success isn't just about its time-traveling plot or its catchy soundtrack. It's about the sum of its parts, the triumphs and the tribulations, the strokes of genius and the happy accidents, the moments of levity and the brushes with danger. These imperfections, these quirks, these forgotten details, they all contribute to the film's enduring charm. They remind us that even the most beloved stories are born from a complex and often unpredictable process. And in the case of Back to the Future, that process was a journey in itself, one that continues to resonate with audiences decades later. Did you catch these bloopers, dangers, and unrealized storylines early on or only later? Share your thoughts in the comments.